Hi everyone. In this video tutorial, I am going to explain you regarding materials for body construction of a fermenter, or you can say bioreactor. Now, in this video tutorial, we will cover the different materials and the different sealing systems that are used for the construction of a bioreactor. This is the part of paper BT 302 Biochemical Engineering Unit 1 Bioreactor Design Semester 5. So let's get started. Let's first understand, first recall the definition of what is bioreactor. So bioreactor is nothing but it is a specially designed culture vessel that is going to provide you the aseptic control conditions in which you can use the raw material and just convert it into the specific product. For example, let's say you are producing bioethanol. Okay, you are producing bioethanol from glucose. So can I say glucose is acting as a substrate, or you can say raw material, and you are doing it from the yeast, using yeast as the microorganism. Okay, so using yeast, you are going to convert glucose into the bioethanol. Now, when I say aseptic, that means you do not require any other contamination of bacteria or any other fungi. Otherwise, the bioethanol production, either it will be decreased, it can be inhibited, or it can lead to some other product also if other strains they are going to contaminate it. That's why those bioreactors are there that can provide strict aseptic control conditions. Okay. Now, what was the need of the bioreactor? Again, first we have seen that the first need is to provide the aseptic conditions. Okay. And the another thing is it provides the controlled pH, controlled temperature, controlled aeration, and other such parameters. What do you understand by the word control? That means, let's say, if your organism is working optimized, when you have optimized the condition in which your organism is working at pH 7.3, then the bioreactor will make sure that during the entire process, the pH remains to 7.3. That's why you require a bioreactor. I hope the con- basics of the bioreactor is clear. Now let's move to the another part. What are the materials that are used in the bioreactor? Okay, now we have to maintain the aseptic conditions, but once it is in the upstream processing, so what happens before upstream processing? It needs to get sterilized. Okay, so the material should be in such a way that it should withstand the repeated steam sterilization, because after the process is completed, once the product has been extracted and not, again it has to go for sterilization. So there are repeated sterilization cycles that are taking place. So your material should be in such a way that it should withstand such a high amount of temperature. Otherwise, what will happen? It will lead to some pores in it. It will lead to the defect in that material, which is not useful to us. Okay. Now, in a small scale, okay, for example, what do you understand by the one small scale? That means you are using it at the lab scale. Okay. You have seen that when we talk about the scale of them, that means there is a laboratory level. Then we slowly go for the pilot level, and then we go for the industrial level. So when you talk about the lab scale, there were only 1 to 30 liters of volume is used, of media is used. Decimeter cube, 1 decimeter cube is equals to 1 liter. So at that you can use glass, or you can use the stainless steel. Okay. Now, why glass is used? Because glass is a non-toxic of all. It is corrosion proof. Why corrosion proof? Because sometimes when you use the bacteria, acids are released by the bacteria as an intermediate product or as an end product. Okay, so that acid is going to cause the corrosion. So glass is non-corrosive, so they are mainly used at the lab scale. And it is usually easy to examine the interior of the vessel. Glass is transparent, so we can easily examine the process that is going on in the interior of the vessel. Now, apart from the glass, wood has also been used, plastic has also been used, concrete has also been used, where the contamination was not a problem in the process. But remember, we always talk about the aerobic conditions or anaerobic conditions, and we do everything with a particular strain that is been optimized. Okay. So normally in all the cases, mainly stainless steel is preferred, but when the contamination was not the problem, they have preferred wood, plastic, and concrete. Now there are two basic types of fermenters. Number one is glass vessel with round or flat bottom. You can see this. This is a glass vessel reactor which is having round bottom, or you can say flat bottom over here. But this lid, okay, you can say a top lid. It is flange carrying plate. It is made up of stainless steel only. Now this glass surface and the top is steel. We will see the sealing process in the after in the slides once we are done with all the material. Okay, so please watch the entire video so that you can have the better understanding of the topic. Now all this type of vessels, they are sterilized by autoclave. Okay, because it is easy to remove all the screws, to separate out all the components to sterilize them. So it is normally sterilized by autoclaving. Now there is another thing. All it is a glass vessel, but you can see that the bottom is also made up of stainless steel and the top is also made up of stainless steel. Okay. So, but vessels with those two stainless steel, they approximately cost 50% more than just the top plate that we have seen in the previous one. Okay. At pilot and large scale, when all the fermenters are sterilized in situ, any materials used will have access to their ability to withstand pressure, sterilization, and corrosion on their and on their potential toxicity and cost. There are in industries, not just we don't deal with 1 to 30 liter of the volume. Okay, there are volume in tons. Okay, so you have to sterilize it internally. Okay, the uh, bioreactor is sterilized internally. You cannot autoclave such a giant bioreactor. Okay. So when you are doing the internal sterilization, the material should be in such a way that it can sustain high amount of pressure, temperature, and it should be non-corrosive. This is the pilot scale reactor. It is also generally made up of stainless steel, and this is the large scale reactor. I think you have seen it when you had done some industrial visit in the pharma, or when you are going to some place while traveling. And I'm sure you have seen this huge giant vessel. Now, here the main thing is they are normally constructed of stainless steel, as we have seen, but there is American Iron and Steel Institute which governs or which regulates the law that this type of vessel should contain this type of material. Okay. Remember, if you are going for the highly acidic products such as vinegar production, citric acid production, where the pH is very low, so at that time the material used will be different as compared to the products that are normal neutral in pH. Okay, so let's see who governs this. So there is American Iron and Steel Institute which governs this. So it says that steels that contains less than 4% chromium, they are steel alloys, and those containing more than 4% chromium, they are classified as stainless steels. Okay. Now sometimes mild steel coated with glass or phenolic epoxy materials has also been used. Now, why they are stainless steel and why they are corrosion protective? Why even if you wash your plate at your house, it doesn't have the corrosion even though you are washing it with the water. So why it is so? Because the stainless steel has the existence of a thin hydrous oxide film on the surface of it which protects it. Okay. Now the thin is in such a way that it has the self repair ability. Again, if you want to increase the more corrosion resistant capacity, then you can add tungsten, silicon, and other elements. There are some grades that are associated with it. These grades are similar to the ISO mark. Okay, we say ISO 9000 and all. So in the similar way, ARSI, again that means American Iron and Steel Institute, which says that the grade 316 steels that contains 18% chromium, 10% nickel, and 2 to 2.5% molybdenum, they are normally used in the fermenter construction. This is the standard method, standard material which is nowadays used. But as I said that if the pH is going to drop very low, just as in citric acid fermentation, then you are going to use 3 to 4% of molybdenum. See, here the percentage was 2 to 2.5, but here it has increased to 3 to 4%. And in that, the grade is 317 grade. Why? It is because high acidic condition can lead the pores in the reactor, and it can lead to the leaching of the heavy metals from the lead itself, from the material itself, from the steel, which could interfere in the fermentation. Okay. AISI grade 304, which contains 18.5% chromium to 10% nickel, is now extensively used for brewing equipment. What do we understand by the brewing equipment in which, let's say, alcohol formation is taking place? So, in that, you are going to use grade that is of 304. Now, you have to learn each and every grade because it can be asked in your exams. Now we have learned that the sealing, there should be sealing of the glass and the top wood. Okay. So when you come to the sealing, it plays the key role in avoiding the contamination. Okay. Because the seal should be in such a way that it cannot leak something from the inside to the outside, while it should not allow any other microbial strains, microbes to come from outside to inside. Okay. So there are different types of seals that are used. If it is between glass and glass, then there will be different type of seals. For example, this top was also made up of glass. And this glass and glass, they are going to seal by some another means. If it is glass and metal, it is as seen in the figure, then it is different type of seal. It is metal and metal, then also you are going to see the different type of seal. Okay. Now, if you want to imagine it, then imagine the pressure cooker at your home. You have seen the gasket or a ring-like structure when you close the top of your pressure cooker with the bottom. Okay, so there is a seal that is taking place. So it is similar to that. We are going to learn regarding these different type of seals now. Okay, so let's talk about the seal. So there are three different types of seals. One is gasket seal, one is lip seal, and the another one is O-ring in a group. Okay, so when you have glass to glass aseptic contact you have to make, then you are going to use gasket type of seal. Okay, this one. Lip seal, or you can say L seal, whenever there is contact between glass and metal. And when there is a contact between metal and metal, then there is a O-ring in group. This is big name is because there is O shape. Okay, there is O-ring. Now, a single O-ring seal is adequate for the good industrial large scale practices, and level 1 and B2, a double O-ring seal is required for levels 2 and B3, and a double O-ring seal with steam between the seals is necessary for levels 3 and B4. Now, don't get confused what is this level A3, level B4, level 3 and all. These are all the hazardous level. Okay, we have discussed it in the containment video. So more the level, more hazardous it is. So the seal should be more stronger. For example, here they have said that in the level 3 and in the level B4. So they are more hazardous as compared to the level 4. So double O-ring seal is used. Double rings will more protection to it. More aseptic condition, more containment is provided to it. That's why it is written over there. Okay. Now here some we have to face some consequences for that. Even though we have to follow the norms that are used according to the hazardous level. So what are they? Double seals are more difficult to assemble correctly. Okay. It is difficult to detect failure of one seal of pair during the operation or assembly. Need of the two seals can be tested independently, and the dead spaces between the two cells must be considered to be contaminated. Okay. By default, the dead space is considered as contaminated. So every time we have to be very careful while doing the sterilization. And that's all for this topic. If you have more questions, then you can email me your questions on my mail ID bhargavi@ljis@lginstitute.edu.in. I will be happy to help you. Thank you. Thanks for watching.